The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
The Monetary Policy Committee of the National Bank of Georgia, NBG, decided to keep the monetary policy rate unchanged at 11%. The rehabilitation of Vargatili metro station will start on February 9 and will continue for 18 months. As the mayor of Tbilisi, Kahak Aladze, said at the meeting of the capital's government, the complete rehabilitation of the metro station will cost 13.4 million lari. 14 commercial banks operating on the Georgian market have published their financial reports for 2022. The data submitted to the regulator revealed that the total net profit amounted to 2.08 billion lari, with 924 million lari by net profit. The first in the ranking is Bank of Georgia. It is followed by TBC Bank with lari of 893.5 million net profit. Top three includes Liberty Bank, which earned a net profit of 67 million lari. This is the Checkpoints. I'm Eleni Gvangilashvili, author and the host of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to update you with the news and analysis on business and economics. The IMF published an overview on global inflation and economic growth, stating that global inflation will fall in 2023 and 2024 amid subpar economic growth. According to the most influential financial institution, global growth is projected to fall from an estimated 3.4% in 2022 to 2.9% in 2023, then rise to 3.1% in 2024. The forecast for 2023 is 0.2 percentage point higher than predicted in the October 2022 World Economic Outlook, but below the historical average of 3.8% in 2019. The rise in central bank rates to fight inflation and Russia's war in Ukraine continue to weigh on economic activity. The rapid spread of COVID-19 in China dampened growth in 2022, but the recent reopening has paved the way for a faster than expected recovery. Global inflation is expected to fall from 8.8% in 2022 to 6.6% in 2023 and 4.3% in 2024, still above pre-pandemic levels of about 3.5%. The balance of risks remains tilted to the downside, but adverse risks have moderated since the October 2022 World Economic Outlook. On the upside, a stronger boost from pent-up demand in numerous economies or a faster fall in inflation are plausible. On the downside, severe health outcomes in China could hold back the recovery. Russia's war in Ukraine could escalate, and tighter global financing costs could worsen debt distress. Financial markets could also suddenly reprice in response to adverse inflation news, while further geopolitical fragmentation could hamper economic progress.
The global economy will slow down this year before rebounding in 2024. But a global recession is not in our baseline. The important factors shaping the outlook are, on the downside, Russia's war in Ukraine and the global fight against inflation. On the upside, the reopening of China's economy. Overall, we have a mild upward revision to our projections. The global economy has shown a lot of resilience. Labor markets are tight, household spending and business investment remain strong, and European economies proved quite resilient against the energy crisis. Global growth is expected to slow from 3.4% in 2022 to 2.9% in 2023. The slowdown will be more pronounced for advanced economies. China and India will account for 50% of global growth. Global headline inflation is expected to fall from 8.8% in 2022 to 4.3% in 2024. Core inflation, however, is more persistent and remains too elevated. To sum up, barring new shocks, 2023 could be the year of turning points, with growth bottoming out and inflation decreasing. The balance of risks to the outlook remains tilted to the downside, but is less skewed toward adverse outcomes than in the October wheel. Some upside risks have become more relevant. On the downside, China's recovery could stall with spillovers to the rest of the world. Inflation could persist at high levels, requiring even tighter monetary policy. An escalation of the war in Ukraine remains a major risk to the global economy. And a sudden repricing in financial markets could deteriorate financial conditions, especially for emerging and developing economies. On the upside, strong household balance sheets amid tight labor markets and robust wage growth could help sustain private demand. Easing of remaining supply bottlenecks, coupled with easing labor market pressures, could also allow for a softer landing with less monetary tightening. Well, first, the fight against inflation has started to bear fruit, but the battle is far from won. Central banks need to raise real policy rates above the neutral level and keep them there until inflation is on a sustained declining path. Central banks and prudential authorities must closely monitor the buildup of risks and vulnerabilities, especially in the housing and non-bank financial sectors. Countries should also roll back the broad and untargeted support they provided households and firms to counter the cost of living crisis, and instead adopt targeted measures to conserve fiscal space, allow the energy price signal to reduce energy demand, and avoid overly stimulating the economy. More progress is also needed on orderly debt restructuring through the Group of 20's common framework. Non-Paris Club and private creditors have a crucial role to play. Supply-side policies should be used to reduce growth bottlenecks, improve resilience, alleviate price pressures, and accelerate the green transition. Finally, urgent action is needed to halt the forces of geo-economic fragmentation and strengthen multilateral cooperation in areas of common interest: international trade, the global financial safety net, public health preparedness, and the climate transition.
Next, we'll follow the outlook from the chairman and the CEO of the board of directors of Georgia Capital, Irakli Gilauri. Irakli Gilauri was appointed CEO and chairman on 24 February 2018. He also serves as a member of the nomination and investment committees. Irakli Gilauri formerly served as the CEO of BGO Group from 2011 to May 2018. He joined as CFO of Bank of Georgia in 2004 and was appointed as chairman of the bank in September 2015, having previously served as CEO of the bank since May 2006. Prior, he was an EBRD, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development banker. Mr. Gilauri has up to 20 years of experience in banking, investment, and finance. He served as director of Georgia Healthcare Group PLC, now Georgia Healthcare Group Limited, from August 2015. Gilauri also sits on the supervisory board of GSC Georgia Capital. Gilauri received his undergraduate degree in business studies, economics, and finance from the University of Limerick, Ireland in 1998. He was later awarded the Chimney Scholarship granted by the British Council to study at the Cass Business School of City University, London, where he obtained his MScs in banking and international finance. Here's his perspective on investments, GCAP goals, and more.
Okay, it's been a while. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years already since our last interview. The world has changed. We have changed. You're getting younger, I'm getting older, so that's it. Tell me about Georgia Capital. I really like to know what kind of entity, what kind of transformation has happened with Georgia Capital, because you're still in daily discussions and contacts with international and local investors. So share with us some updates about Georgia
I think
Capital.
that It's a fascinating story of Georgia Capital the last 5 years when we are trying to form the professional investor, institutional investor, which in this country is pretty unusual. It's a young country and we don't have many professional or institutional investors. So we've been creating this as local Georgia focused investor, and it's been a very interesting how it has been involved, and we went through different passes how we should go about it. I think in the end we have arrived on a very simple formula that we need to help our portfolio companies with the strategy. We need to form the right management teams, and we need to sign off on the investments, on capital allocations. We are a professional capital allocator. Investments and divestments. Where should we invest? What we should divest? And that's all about the Georgia Capital and simple approach. We are 25 people in this office, and these 25 people decide only on these 3 very limited things. Mm-hmm. And rest we let our really excellent management team to operate and deliver results. And that's a kind of very simple truth that. Especially, it's very difficult when my background is operations. I've been operating the companies all my life, and it's difficult to discontinue it. And basically, we have managed, or I have managed, to force myself not to operate and look at this our portfolio companies as an investor.
As an investor,
and not as an operator.
We still have some existing challenges, and I will not. Open or create anything new. That we all had a big hope just 1 year ago that pandemic was by its end, but then this disaster has happened 24th of February, and the world has changed again. In what direction? That's one of my questions, because you're still in relations with international investors. And at the same time, you are investor as well, because that's the core form of the GCAPs. That's how you do and perform. Tell me about Georgia Capital's achievements and also challenges for 2022.
Yeah, basically when we thought that pandemic was over and we were on the route of changing our habits and doing business differently, this war has started, which obviously was horrible war started, and we obviously got worried, how we gonna go about it. Fortunately, the Georgia showed stability, and fortunately, Georgia economic progress has been achieved. We have a double-digit 10% plus GDP growth this year. We had in 2021 we had another 10% growth. So two consecutive years of
correct.
Double-digit GDP growth is unprecedented for Georgian recent history. So that's been a big achievement in that sense. Another big achievement is obviously that the current account deficit has shrunk to close to zero, which is another big structural change of Georgian economy. And that's before we had this big current account deficit, which was balanced by FDI. Now the FDI is a bonus on top of this, current account being in zero. That's why you have a lari appreciating, and that's why you have a investor confidence is even greater. And this investor confidence brings more investments. Recently, we've seen strategic investors coming to Georgia. Big names are coming to Georgia, and it will continue to come because they see a growth opportunity. As the world is in fears of the recession, in the fears of the inflation, stagflation, etc., Georgia is a safe haven of finding the growth opportunities. Mm-hmm. So I think that trend will continue, and this policy of basically investing in infrastructure from government side to do this middle corridor where more throughput through our railways will happen, where we have a the Black Sea cable going to EU, to Romania, basically, and the government signing the PPAs with the investors to build more renewable energy in this country is extremely important. So basically, even though we had a very strong growth, we have a investor confidence, but we also have a plans. I mean, the government has a plans where the investment should go, and that obviously brings a big confidence to investors.
You also mean in regard to the plans, the Black Sea Cable project, I mean, which was preliminarily agreed and suggested between few countries, where after we will take some steps to have more generation and power plants in this country, we should definitely sell somewhere. And Europe is a place where it's extremely needed right today.
Obviously, and basically, the war created war had sanctions. Sanction effect is there, and obviously the energy deficit going to continue to happen. It's basically it's a new world. It's a new settings that the energy will be in deficit, and I think that Georgia stepping up investment in renewable energy, Georgia stepping up the connecting high voltage line to the Europe. That's a right, absolute right policy. Also, logistically, Central Asia to connect with Europe, there is a limited ways of connecting now. Therefore, investment in enlarging this corridor, the logistic corridor, is extremely important project for the country, and also brings a lot of investor confidence.
Existing trends and actual macroeconomic figures, statistics what we have, and also the plans what Georgia is announcing. Is it a key point how Georgia Capital and other Georgian companies are performing on London Stock Exchange as well? They're performing quite well, and I mean all the profile and outlook what you have just described. That's how where we should find the reasons why Georgia Capital shares are doing so well. Am I right?
Absolutely. I mean the Georgia offers the growth. Georgia Capital offers the growth. I mean Georgia Capital is a proxy of the Georgian economy. It's Georgia Capital portfolio companies and economy are intertwined. One cannot do well without the other, and vice versa, I guess, right? So we are pretty much dependent, and that growth of the economy growth brings the growth in our companies, and the investors obviously are in search of the growth, especially in this environment what we discussed, fears of recession in US, in Europe, fears of inflation, even greater fears of stagflation. Yeah. All of these things obviously brings investors to search for the growth opportunities. And Georgia offers great growth opportunity. Not only offers the track record of the growth opportunity, but also offers the future projects which will bring the growth and solidify it. And current account is another health of the measurement of the economy.
The economy itself, yeah.
And obviously the exchange rate and lari, the way it behaves, it's a first measurement, first sign, of the healthiness of Georgian economy.
So my last, but not the least, question is about your future plans for 2023. What I've searched through your portfolio, you still go on investing. I mean, Georgia Capital, education.
Yes.
Definitely, it's going to be energy sector.
Yes.
And healthcare and healthcare management systems.
Yes, mainly the outpatient clinics. That's where we think that the growth opportunities is. Renewable energy is we talked about. It's something it's a no-brainer to invest in the renewable energy, especially in the renewable energy. And the schools, it's one of our favorite areas of investment, because we are not only helping the business to grow and develop, but we are helping the kids to get a good education, and this is kind of is double fulfilling.
Absolutely, yes. Good luck with it. Good luck with your project, and hope we will not have the same big pause like to see what is happening with Georgia capital for 2028. I'll meet you definitely before that. Good luck.
Thanks, Georgi. Thank you.
Tracking investments further, Enterprise Georgia hosted an orientation tour for location consultants. According to the state agency, the location consultants Peter Ryan and Michael Zdanovsky held meetings with local consulting companies, business associations, international organizations, and foreign companies operating in Georgia. The tour's goal is to introduce Georgia's business environment and investment potential to location locators and their clients. While in Georgia, the consultants will look into various business investment opportunities to inform potential investors. Peter Ryan is recognized as one of the world's leading experts in business process outsourcing, BPO. Michael Zdanovsky is a government relations and communications consultant in the energy, industrial, and engineering sectors, as well as a business outsourcing consultant. According to the agency, this is the fourth time that a similar educational tour has been held. Such initiatives have proven successful at promoting the country, luring investment, and generating new jobs, the agency says.
In summary, the trip has been very successful. Over the course of the past 3 days, we've had the opportunity of visiting a number of different companies. We visited some property companies, we visited a law firm, we've had the chance to see some technology companies that are playing and doing some great action here in Georgia. Really, from the standpoint of where I'm coming from, what I'll be feeding back to my clients when I get back to Canada and I speak to people from around the world is the fact that this is a country that is truly open for business, that focuses on foreign investment and the ease of bringing in new businesses. But there's something even further to that. A big part of what I'm doing is going to be looking at what's happening in regards to the customer experience management space and the customer service that you get in Georgia. The fact that people are so focused on the consumer. Every interaction I've had, whether it's a hotel, a restaurant, a shop, a bar, people have been really conscious about me as an end user. And that feeds very importantly to any contact center company that's looking to invest in a new location. The bottom line is that when we bring investors back into Georgia, hopefully later on this year, we've got a great story that we can't just tell them, but we can show them. Georgia is a country that's dynamic, it's focused on the consumer, it's focused on looking out towards the rest of the world, and this is exactly the type of environment in which a contact center company from abroad is looking for when they need a new location in which to invest.
Georgia is a fantastic place to come and do business. So I've been here several days with my business partner, and we're experts in the global BPO, offshore and outsourcing sector. We've met a number of young Georgian companies that are doing fantastic work in back office services. So some of those services relate to call centers, so their operatives are speaking English, Turkish, Italian and German to different customers and clients across Western Europe and North America. And what we found is that Georgians are very people-focused people. They enjoy interacting with other people, and that's really important in this industry because companies don't want to invest in a place where there's bad customer service or there are problems with the IT or problems with the business culture. And what we've seen here in Georgia is a compatibility between the services that the companies in this country offer with those in Western Europe and North America, and that's really important. And it's particularly important now, post-COVID, because a lot of businesses in Western Europe and North America are re-evaluating their business strategies. They know that they want to do some work abroad, they maybe want to invest in different countries, they maybe want to diversify. And so Georgia offers a one-stop shop because it's got a business-focused culture, a people-focused customer service industry, and also it's really easy to set up business in Georgia. So we've spent some time here today in this centre where you can set up a business within 1 day, you can get your passport within 1 day, and the government of Georgia is making it as easy as possible for international companies to come here and invest and feel comfortable with that level of investment. And finally, Georgia is a great place to visit. people coming from abroad don't just want to do business and go home and jump on a plane. They want to see a bit of the culture. Georgia has, particularly in Tbilisi, first-class hotels, excellent customer service, and again, this people-focused emphasis from the customer service industry is fantastic.
More on Georgia's weekly economic news and outlook in the checkpoints right now.
EU Commission report once again demonstrates that Georgia as a top reformer deserves to be granted a candidate status. Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili writes on Twitter, EU Commission has published an analytical report on Georgia's alignment with the EU acquis. The document clearly reflects our country's progress in the EU integration path and once again demonstrates that Georgia as a top reformer deserves to be granted a candidate status. Garibashvili tweeted, Pavel Hertsinski, ambassador of European Union to Georgia, responded to the analytical report published by European Commission, noting that it describes the state of the readiness of Georgia to become a member of European Union in 33 different areas. I want to congratulate the Georgian government and Georgian administration for a very positive report. It describes the state of the readiness of Georgia to become a member of European Union in 33 different areas. Of course, in case of some areas, further progress needs to be made, and here, of course, European Union, we are ready to help and assist Georgian administration to move forward. But from my point of view, the overall assessment is very positive, Pavel Hertsinski said. In January 2023, the consumer price index increased by 0.8% compared to the previous month, while the annual inflation rate amounted to 9.4%. With regard to annual core inflation, the price increased by 7.7%, while the annual core inflation without tobacco also amounted to 7.7%, show the preliminary data from the National Statistics Office of Georgia. As of the document, the annual inflation rate was mainly influenced by price change for the following groups. Food and non-alcohol beverages, the price in the group increased by 50%, contributing 5 percentage points to the overall annual inflation rate. Housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels. The prices for the group posted a 13.1% increase, which contributed to 1.38 percentage point to the annual inflation rate. Transport. The price for the group increased by 5.2%, contributing 0.63 percentage point to overall index. The Ministry of Finance of Georgia published a financial document. As of the December 2022, the foreign debt of Georgia amounted to $8.34 billion USD or 2244 billion lari. Annually, the state foreign debt increased by 130 million in USD while decreased by 2.9 billion in lari. The main reason for this was the strengthening of national currency. The Asia Development Bank's loan ranks the first in Georgia's foreign debt, which the country took to develop the largest infrastructure projects. The World Bank Group is in the second place. The World Bank credits are mainly used for infrastructure projects as well. The European Investment Bank ranks on the third place. 10,822 permissions granted were issued in 2022, 7.2% more compared to the previous year for the construction of buildings, according to the preliminary data from the National Statistics Office of Georgia. As of the document, 77.2% of total permits have been issued in 4 regions of the country, namely 51.9% of construction works located in Tbilisi, 10.5% in Tskheta-Mtianeti region, 8.4% in Kemu-Kartli region, 6.4% in Imereti region. It should be noted that in 2022, permissions were issued for the construction of multifunctional residential complexes, hotels, trade facilities, industrial enterprises, agricultural objects and other buildings. the relatively large share of permissions granted hold the multifunctional residential complexes. With an initiative of Irakli Garibashvili, Prime Minister of Georgia, a new program is being launched for the construction and rehabilitation of 885 kindergartens nationwide, namely 330 new ones will be constructed and 555 existing ones will be rehabilitated. Program for the construction and rehabilitation of kindergartens will be implemented in several phases, and 1.3 billion lari will be spent for the state budget toward this end. It's worth noting that 1 million lari has already been earmarked for the first phase of the work to be carried out in 2023. Construction and rehabilitation works will be implemented by the Municipal Development Fund, subordinated to the Ministry of Regional Development and Infrastructure of Georgia. Tenders will be announced in the nearest future. According to the Minister of Finance, Lasha Khotishvili, double-digit economic growth is also reflected in the employment rate. As of Eurostat, the estimated real gross domestic product growth rate amounted to 11% for December 2022 and 10.1% in 2022 compared to previous year. It's noteworthy that the turnover of VAT taxpayer enterprises increased by more than 80% in December, which annually reflected on the tax revenues as well. In January 2022, a 30% increase in tax revenues has been observed. For the second year, double-digit economic growth has been recorded in Georgia. Last year, an important contributor was the significant increase in exports, which increased by more than 30%, and also the recovery of tourism, which exceeded the figure of 2019 by about 7-8%. Naturally, the mentioned indicators are reflected on the employment rate as well, said the Minister of Finance, Lasha Khotishvili. According to the NDICER, rising prices, jobs and poverty remain top national concerns. To the question, what are the most important national issues for facing you and your family, 77% of respondents answered that they are very worried about inflation. 21% are worried about rising prices and only 1% are not worried about this issue. As of the survey, 38% of respondents believe that it's more the result of Georgian government's policy. 31% believes that inflation is more the result of factors beyond the control of Georgian government. 16% say that both factors influence price growth and 50% does not know. The survey was conducted between December 3 and December 23 face-to-face interviews with a nationwide representative samples of Georgia's adult population, excluding occupied territories. The December poll included 2,519 completed interviews.
The largest international business association, the International Chamber of Commerce, plans to establish a new index of economic dependency, which will measure the extent to which Georgia is economically dependent on any of the countries in the world. The idea was aired at the first consultative board meeting of the 2023 of the ICC Georgia. The main topic of the meeting was the launch of ICC Center of Entrepreneurship in Tbilisi. John Denton, Secretary General of the ICC, and Fadi Asli, Chairman of the ICC Georgia, have more insights for the checkpoints. Fadi, John, thank you for being with me and taking my questions. Fadi, what was the main focus of the first consultative board in 2023?
We did present our new Center for Entrepreneurship that will be based in Georgia for the region. And we did sign an MOU with our Secretary General, who came from Paris specifically for this. And this center will be helping SMEs and very small enterprise and entrepreneurs to develop and to increase their revenues and to become wealthier. And this will contribute to the global wealth of Georgia.
Mr. John, you said that whenever we see the opportunity and whenever we see the market value, we take the action. Is it also true in the context of this entrepreneurship center for entrepreneurship? And why did ICC decide? What are some of the gaps that this center could fill in Georgia's context?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks very much for being with us today. And it's great to be in Georgia. It's great to be in Tbilisi with Fadi and the team. And as Fadi says, I mean, what we see here is an opportunity to accelerate the opportunity for citizens of Georgia, but also within the region itself. What we see is the potential mindset change. There's actually a shift going on in mindset about people's and their opportunities. There's been a few changes happening in the Georgian economy, and also a few of the geopolitical issues are encouraging people to think differently about their future, about levels of dependency, about the need to actually diversify where they trade, but also suddenly for a number of people in the region, there's an opportunity. Technology is changing, the actual levels of education are higher. They're suddenly saying they're starting to live differently than they did before. They're saying, well, why can't we open our own businesses? Why can't we take responsibility for our own future? And that's where we come in. We can help. And that's what we're trying to do with the Center of Entrepreneurship, is to provide the opportunity for anyone who wants to start a business to actually do so.
You have been in Georgia before. What are some of the changes or some of the developments that you see right now? Because, as you mentioned, there are currently many global challenges that work for and against Georgia, and this is quite striking that almost all the international agencies say that this war with Ukraine worked as a booster for Georgia's economy, and it helped actually Georgia's economy.
Well, you've got to think about the opportunities. I mean, even out of COVID, there are a series of opportunities. People realized how important the digital platform was, and you saw particularly Next Generation, but also a number of existing generation players start to transform their businesses so that they can operate using the digital platform. And when you start doing that, you suddenly realize that if you could have access, you could actually operate across borders as well by using the digital platform. That, by the way, is one of the key elements of the ICC Center of Entrepreneurship, is helping people access the digital skills to operate cross borders. Well, there's also the obvious change. The demography constantly changes. You'll see the makeup of Georgia as a population a little bit different. You still see quite a strong, I think, emerging next generation in Georgia. And also that's in Central Asia itself and in Eurasia. You're actually seeing the shift taking place. And of course, what we want to do is actually make certain that we provide the skills and capabilities to that next generation. But to those who are interested, those who see the need, those who actually find opportunity with their existing businesses to shift the way in which they operate, we can help them.
Fadi, ICC Georgia will be providing a new index of economic dependence. A new index of economic dependence, as you have mentioned. Could this center somehow help this diversification route for Georgia, for it not to be dependent so much on the Russian market in this case?
Yes, definitely. I mean, first of all, regarding this index that we are working on, it will determine the dependency of Georgia towards specific countries to see how economic dependent we are on a country or another. The aim is to make sure that Georgia is not hostage of any country for its economic welfare, and any country can have the power to destroy Georgia any day they close their borders and stop economic trade. But this Center for Entrepreneurship is very important because it is regional, and it will encourage people to grow their business and to trade across the border. And this means that we will be developing regional trade with the countries of the region, and we will be decreasing our dependency on a country or another. So we will be mitigating our risks. And this center will play a huge role in achieving this goal, which is crucial for any country, and specifically Georgia.
And my last question, currently what we see in Georgia's economy is that the role of government is growing. The role of government is growing because we see a lot of subsidies, we see employment programs that come from the state. You both mentioned mentioned that ICC is a great believer in the economic growth and economic development that is led by the private sector. What do you mean specifically under that, and why is that so important?
Look, I mean, I will come to this very old saying that says you have to teach someone, you shouldn't give someone a fish to eat every day, you have to teach people to fish. And I believe that the role of the ICC globally is to teach people how to grow their businesses and not depend on government for subsidies or help or artificial employments. We believe in a free market economy. I mean, at ICC Georgia, we don't believe that the government should be involved in social programs. We don't believe in subsidies. We believe that businesses should be self-sustained without the help of anybody. And any business that depends on subsidy to develop is a failed business, because the minute the subsidy stops, then the business fades. So we don't encourage the government to get involved into those social programs artificially to employ people just for the sake of employment, people who sit all day long, do nothing in their offices and cash a salary. Those are a burden on the economy, a burden on the country, a burden on the taxpayers. The government should focus on bringing foreign investment here, on developing foreign investment in Georgia, on developing the economy so the GDP increases to a level where the Georgians can all find employment in the country, don't find the need to travel abroad for employment. And this is how we would be building a healthy and sound economy, to my view.
Mr. John, I understand that this center is focusing more on like MSME sector and also startups, but I remember that ICC had this initiative also to bring ICC arbitration court to Georgia. Currently, this is quite a big issue because we see quite many cases that are in international arbitration courts in Georgia against the Georgian state. Could you update us on that, where that issue stands right now?
Well, just to be clear, the ICC Courts of Arbitration, we're celebrating our centenary this year, and in fact, the president of the court, Claudia, and also the chair of the governing body, Mike McElrath, have also both been through Georgia and Tbilisi. We're going to continue to look at this as to whether or not that we can actually create an economically sustainable model that can operate here, and hopefully over the next 6 to 12 months we'll be able to form a final view. So we look forward to continuing to engage as the world's leading arbitral body with matters that arise from Georgia and more broadly from the region, and we'll do our best to ensure they can be handled as effectively as possible.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this very interesting comments, and thank you for helping Georgia.
Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you so much.
What do ICC Centers of Entrepreneurship stand for globally, and what will be the focus of the center in Tbilisi, which is set to be a hub for Caucasus and Central Asia? The Checkpoints talk to Gabriel Petrus, Global Head of ICC Center of Entrepreneurship. Gabriel, thank you for being with us and taking our questions. So what does the ICC Center for Entrepreneurship stand globally?
So our main goal is to help SMEs and young entrepreneurs to scale up, to have access to tools, access to finance, access to markets, and empower them to actually succeed as entrepreneurs and as cross-border entrepreneurs, because that's the DNA of ICC. We work primarily with international trade. We know that in Georgia, the participation of SMEs in global trade is still low, so there is still a challenge to improve the number of SMEs that are exporting, for example. So that's our main challenge today and our main mission as well in Georgia and the region.
Yes. How does Georgia fit into this global context?
So Georgia is a very diverse country, very vibrant economy. We know there's a challenge now with the geopolitical situation, but also a lot of opportunities like the middle corridor with the Black Sea. So we do understand there's a lot of potential for Georgia. And again, working with the young population, the youth, the next generation of entrepreneurs for us, this is what we think we can do and will do through the business communities. And again, the challenge for us is how we help Georgian economy to diversify, because we know the economy is still very dependent on a couple of products, natural resources, agri-food, And we do understand if we provide capacity building programs for SMEs, if we strengthen the business environment in the region, we can actually help their country to see more entrepreneurs creating new companies. And why not create global or regional companies? So that's our main goal, help everyone to become an entrepreneur, or at least help everyone to have the choice to become a global or cross-border entrepreneur.
Yes, in your presentation, you mentioned several times the word ecosystem. What do you mean under that? And because we have some, for example, we have JITA that is working with the startups in Georgia. But the main challenge is exactly this, ecosystem, so that these startups then are sustainable, they have access to finance. What would be ICC Center's contribution to that?
Absolutely, that's a very good question. Ecosystem means we want to work with all stakeholders, with JITA and other partners. We don't want to overlap on existing initiatives. On the opposite, we want to connect the local initiatives, existing programs, with a global platform that we have built, which is the Centers of Entrepreneurship. So ICC is the largest business organization. We have 45 million business members all over the globe in more than 100 countries. So we can help startups from Georgia that are being supported by other organizations to connect globally with foreign investors, with potential clients in South America, in Africa, in Southeast Asia. So again, this is the global dimension we're bringing into the ecosystem. And we want also to learn with local ecosystems so that we can share experiences. So again, it's a win-win for Georgia, for local partners, and globally for ICC, which is a nonprofit international business organization that is now standing up with Georgia to support, strengthen the business environment and entrepreneurs.
Yes, and one more, I was taking my notes. One more interesting phrase was creating hub for funding opportunities from Georgia. What does that mean?
So, of course, access to finance is one of the big gaps that entrepreneurs they have, either as an early stage business or even a more advanced business. So we have been working to develop some global tools, digital tools that help entrepreneurs to have speed access to finance. So with less requirements, less bureaucracy that normally they face when dealing with banks. So actually fintechs globally, they're helping entrepreneurs to have easier access to finance, and we want to connect those fintechs with the Georgia market.
Yes, and my last question, and thank you for your time again. I understand that this is still a working phase, what the Center for Georgia might look like, but is there any business model that you already have in mind? Are there any countries that you're comparing Georgia with that could also work in Georgia? Just a draft outline for our viewers.
So we have a global methodology and framework that we used in other 11 regions. So we have been working in Latin America, in Asia, in the Middle East, in Europe, and also Africa. Of course, each region has its own challenge, but there's a common challenge for SMEs and startups and entrepreneurs in every region, which we think ICC can help overcome, help those entrepreneurs to overcome those challenges. But in Georgia specifically, as you said, it's a first step of a journey we're building. The first step of this journey is to understand the ecosystem. So we are preparing a survey, a research with partners on the ground to map who are the key stakeholders, what are the existing initiatives, what are the gaps that we can complement through the ICC, and of course, identify what are the specific needs of Georgian business internationally. So again, our focus is really to work what we call cross-border entrepreneurship.
Thank you so much, and wish you and Georgia success, of course.
Thank you so much, and looking forward to working together with you. Thank you.
And before we say goodbye, our reporter Natia Taktakishvili will sum up weekly news and outlook for you.
A new international brand hotel Holiday Inn Express Tbilisi Avlabari was opened in Tbilisi. The project was implemented with Kazakh investment by the real estate development company Symmetria. The amount of direct investment in the project amounts to $12.5 million USD. Holiday Inn Express Tbilisi Avlabari includes 122 standard rooms that can accommodate up to 250 people. The concept of the hotel is aimed at the middle-income segment. The available rooms are suitable for both leisure and business guests. The hotel has multifunctional conference spaces and employs about 50 people at this stage. Company Symetria deeply believes that this project will make a significant contribution to the development of tourism and will bring benefits to everyone. Tariel Gabunia, director of Symetria company, explains. Real estate development company Symetria has been operating on the market since 2012. Currently, their portfolio includes such projects as Best Western Kutaisi, Holiday Inn Express Tbilisi Alabari, Shopping Center Gdani Mall, residential complexes Symetria Wake and Symetria Lisi. Gaga Kokhreidze, director of Volvo Car Caucasus, says 160 cars were sold in Georgia in 2022. As he told TV program Business Morning, there was a significant increase last year compared to 2021. But the company had more success in the region. In general, demand for new cars significantly increased, so supply could not meet the demand. But we tried to find new alternative ways that gave us the opportunity to satisfy the customers as much as possible, said Gaga Kokhreidze. According to Volvo Car Caucasus, there is a great interest in plug-in hybrid cars. Demand is for almost the same type of cars in Georgia as well as in the whole region, but Azerbaijan market is rather different, where the interest is mainly in sedans, while 85% of our sales in Georgia accounts for crossovers. Recently, plug-in hybrid cars are very popular everywhere. Previously, we saw 20% of such cars. Last year, hybrid car sales made up 40%. There are several reasons for the demand increase, as the manufacturers mostly produce eco-friendly cars which consume less gasoline, explains the director of Volvo Car Caucasus. Hypermarket chain Goodwill will open 2 new branches in Kazakhstan and Armenia in 2023. As the general director of the company, Georgy Khabashvili told BMWG, not a single Georgian supermarket has yet been opened outside of Georgia in the direction of the FMCG segment. Goodwill started to work on the franchise in 2019. We conducted negotiations between 2021 and 2022 and decided to open the supermarkets. The first branch will be opened in Kazakhstan, while the second in Yerevan, which will be located on the area of 1,000 square meters. This will be very interesting news for Armenia because they don't have this type of supermarket. Both branches will open in spring 2023. Investments are made by our partners who receive a franchise from Goodwill, Georgy Khabashvili said. Hypermarket chain Goodwill has been operating in Georgia since 2004 and currently has 5 branches throughout the country. Alexandra Shengelia, the head of marketing department of McDonald's Georgia, discusses the current challenges and notes that by implementing the right approach, the company is able to avoid the challenges related to the lack of workforce. We don't face staff shortage because we are McDonald's. This brand is guaranteed for our employees as there is a different working space, expectations, development and dynamics. We have a lot of tools to keep the staff. First of all, the working environment and adjusted schedule. We give each of them a chance to develop as much as possible with trainings and studies. Company also gives them financial incentives, said Alexandra Shengelia. Tinatin Sampurashvili, the founder of the wooden cottage construction company Didostati, told BMWG that customers mostly are interested in the construction of tourist facilities. The main demand is from resort areas Ajara, Guria, Racha and Kazbagi. The construction fee varies depending on the location and specifics of the project. Currently, the price for per square meter varies from 1,200 gelari to 1,300 gelari, while in 2021 this fee did not exceed 1,100 gelari. We are trying to keep a low price at the expense of the profit margin, although it's quite difficult because the price of construction materials has become more expensive, said Tinatin Sampurashvili. According to her, the most popular are the cottages where the living space does not exceed 60 square meters, which the company builds in 40 days. Tea-producing company Mana plans to enter the USA market in 2023. Irakli Hurtumelia, director of the company, told BM.G that USA is the most desirable market for the company, so America will be the target country for Mana in 2023. According to him, in addition to the USA, Mana is also considering entering Saudi Arabia. The company exports its products mainly to Europe, including Czech Republic, Poland, Germany, and Slovakia. We have a partner in the Czech Republic where the company's warehouse is located, and sales in European countries are made from this warehouse. Our target market for 2023 is the USA. There is no better market in the world than America. It's a big market, and regardless of the product price, if you focus on the quality, you will still be able to sell it. In addition to the USA, in 2023, we will consider expanding to Saudi Arabia as well, says the director of Mana. 75% of Mana products are sold in the local market, while 25% are exported to Europe. Georgian tile-producing company Legi exported paving concrete tiles to Armenia. The company first exported Georgian tiles abroad last October. Sergo Lequinadze, director of development and marketing of Legi, told TV program Business Morning that due to the high cost of logistics of concrete products, it's not possible to sell the products over long distances. Legi produces concrete products which are quite expensive, including their transportation. So it's a challenge to export our products to a distant country. A few years ago, we made a terminal on the Georgian-Armenia borders through a tender, after which Armenian companies became interested in our products, and we started exporting to Armenia from October last year. I think the current year will be more important in terms of exports development. Lequinadze noted, according to the director, 10% of the company's sales will account for the exports. Exports will not have a large share in our production due to the expensive logistics. 10% of the company's sales will account for the export, which is quite a good figure for the company. We want the Georgian products to be represented in other neighboring countries as well, said Sergo Lequinadze.
So that's all for today. We will meet next Sunday, 11 a.m. sharp. Before that, follow us on BM.G and Forbes.G, and take care.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.